There is a quiet pressure almost everyone feels now. It doesn't scream. It doesn't insult you. It just sits there, watching. It tells you that you could be better, calmer, more productive, more healed, more confident, and no matter how much effort you put in, it never seems enough. If you've ever felt tired not because life is hard, but because you're constantly trying to improve yourself, this video is for you. Not to fix you, not to motivate you, just to sit with you for a moment. Because something important is happening, and almost no one talks about it. At some point, the idea of becoming your best version stopped feeling inspiring. It started feeling heavy, like a responsibility you never agreed to. You wake up already behind the person you think you should be, behind the version of you that exists only in your mind. And the strange part is this: even on good days, the pressure doesn't disappear. You might be doing everything right, working on yourself, trying to heal, trying to grow, yet deep down, there's a quiet voice asking, why don't I feel better yet? That question alone can drain more energy than a hard day ever could. No one warns you about this part. They talk about growth, about transformation, about becoming more, but they rarely talk about what it costs emotionally to constantly feel like you are not enough yet. When improvement becomes an identity, rest starts to feel like failure. Silence feels like stagnation, and simply being who you are feels incomplete. You're not lazy, you're not broken, you're tired of chasing a moving target. There's something deeply exhausting about believing that happiness exists only in a future version of yourself. Because it quietly tells you that the present you is not worthy of peace. So you postpone rest, you postpone satisfaction, you postpone kindness toward yourself. I'll feel okay once I become better. But better never arrives. It keeps changing shape. Maybe you've noticed this already. You read the books, you watch the videos, you reflect, you try to apply what you learn. For a moment, it feels hopeful. And then, empty again. Not because the ideas are wrong, but because you're exhausted from always becoming and never arriving. That kind of exhaustion doesn't show up as sadness. It shows up as numbness. A quiet detachment from yourself. Somewhere along the way, growth turned into self-surveillance. You started monitoring your thoughts, your emotions, your reactions. Am I healed enough? Am I doing this right? Why am I still feeling this way? Even your pain started to feel like a mistake. And that's when improvement stops being supportive and starts being cruel. Let's pause here for a moment. Not to analyze, not to fix. Just notice how often you felt guilty for not being okay yet. That guilt didn't come from nowhere. It came from a culture that romanticizes growth but ignores emotional limits. A culture that praises effort but rarely honors rest. There's an unspoken rule that says, if you're aware of your issues, you should already be past them. And if you're not, something must be wrong with you. That rule is false and harmful. Awareness doesn't erase pain. It often makes it heavier before it gets lighter. Some people aren't stuck because they refuse to grow. They're stuck because they've been growing without stopping. Always adjusting, always improving, always correcting themselves. No pause, no arrival, no permission to just exist. Have you ever noticed how quiet moments feel uncomfortable now? Moments with no task, no progress, no improvement goal. Your mind rushes to fill the silence. Maybe I should work on myself more. Maybe I should be doing something. That restlessness isn't ambition. It's fatigue disguised as discipline. Here's something rarely said out loud. Not every moment of your life is meant to be productive. Not every emotion needs to be transformed. Not every version of you needs to be upgraded. Some versions of you just need to be held, not improved. There's a difference between growth and self-rejection. Growth says, I can change without hating who I am. Self-rejection says, I must change to deserve peace. Many people confuse the two, and suffer quietly because of it. If you feel emotionally tired in a way sleep doesn't fix, this might be why. You've been at war with your own timeline. Trying to force clarity, trying to force healing, trying to force strength, and healing doesn't respond well to force. Maybe the most radical thing you can do right now is not to become better, but to stop running from who you are today. Not forever, just for this moment. This doesn't mean giving up. It means resting without guilt. It means allowing yourself to exist without evaluation. No scorecard, no progress report, just presence. You don't need to earn peace by becoming someone else. You don't need to justify your exhaustion. And you don't need to be fixed to be worthy of relief. If this resonates, stay with me. Because in the next part, we're going to explore something even deeper. Why so many people feel lost after doing everything they were told would help them grow, and what quiet shift can bring relief without forcing change. If you feel seen so far, take a breath. You're not behind. You're human. There's something unsettling about realizing that doing everything right didn't bring the relief you were promised. You worked on yourself, you reflected, you tried to grow, and yet, you still feel tired. That realization can hurt more than the original pain. Because now the question isn't just why am I hurting? It becomes, what's wrong with me if even growth didn't work? And that question quietly isolates you. No one prepares you for the emotional crash that can come after self-improvement. They talk about breakthroughs, about clarity, about confidence, but they rarely talk about the moment when you realize you've been carrying yourself for too long. Always holding it together, always understanding, always trying to be the bigger person. At some point, even strength gets tired. There's a specific kind of loneliness that comes from being the one who handles things well. People stop checking in, they assume you're okay, they think you've figured it out. And inside, you're quietly thinking, I don't actually know how much longer I can keep doing this. But you don't say it. Because you're supposed to be past this by now. This is where many people get stuck. Not because they don't want to heal, but because they're exhausted from always needing to be resilient. Resilience sounds admirable, but lived constantly, it becomes heavy. Sometimes the body doesn't need another mindset shift. It needs permission to soften. Here's something gentle, but important. You don't have to understand your pain to deserve relief from it. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to reach a conclusion. You are allowed to feel what you feel without turning it into a lesson. A lot of emotional suffering comes from trying to justify our own exhaustion. We ask ourselves questions like, is my pain valid? Shouldn't I be over this already? Other people have it worse, so why am I like this? Those questions don't bring clarity. They bring shame, and shame quietly disconnects you from yourself. Maybe what you need right now isn't insight. Maybe it's safety, the kind of safety that says, you don't have to move. You don't have to improve. You don't have to explain. Just for now, there's a reason silence can feel overwhelming. When you stop striving, everything you've been holding back gets louder. Grief, disappointment, unanswered questions. So you go back to improving. Because improvement keeps you busy. But it also keeps you distant from yourself. Healing doesn't always come from doing more. Sometimes it comes from letting yourself feel without immediately trying to turn it into progress. That doesn't make you weak. It makes you honest. You're not behind because you still feel this way. You're not failing because peace hasn't arrived. Some journeys don't move forward in straight lines. Some of them move inward first. There's a version of you that isn't trying to be impressive. A version that isn't fixing, proving, or optimizing. That version exists underneath the pressure. And it's been waiting quietly. If you listen closely, you might notice something. The exhaustion isn't asking you to quit. It's asking you to stop forcing. To stop rushing your own process. To stop measuring your worth by progress. You don't need to become someone else to feel okay. You don't need to earn rest. And you don't need to be the best version of yourself to be deserving of peace. If this video gave you even a small sense of relief, that matters. If it made you feel less alone, that matters too. Sometimes that's enough for today. If you want to stay in this space, where there's no pressure to perform, no demand to fix yourself, and no expectation to have answers, you can subscribe to the channel. There will be more moments like this. More quiet reminders that you're not broken. And if this resonated with you, leave a like or a comment. Not to explain, just to say, I'm here. Take a breath before you go. You're not late. You're not failing. You're human, and that's already enough.